The SOAR assignment, which I can never remember what the acronym means, but I'll have to memorize that sooner or later. But just getting all the data in for our back end. What software do you want to start off with? I mean, should we just go one by one, or how do you think we should proceed?
Yeah, we can go one by one. Let's start with the platforms where they are and then go from there.
Yeah, do you want to start with DreamHost or Algolia, or do you want to go straight to WordPerfect?
Yeah, we can start with DreamHost. Here, let me pull it up. All right, so let me get logged in.
And you'll share your screen, obviously.
Yeah, I can share my screen. Share this one. All right. Signed in here. Okay, let's go here to Alan's account. All right, so on Alan's account in DreamHost, we have two VPSs. One of them is a computing VPS, and one of them is a database server. Okay, so SQL15854 is the database server, and that is necessary because WordPress consists of three major components. The WordPress code, so that is the WordPress code plus any plugins that run the site. Then there are the files that WordPress contains. And that's things that you generally upload to WordPress, usually images, but it could be other files. In our case, we're talking about files like the imports and things like that. And then the third component of a WordPress site is the database, and that's where all the information gets stored. So it stores everything from settings for WordPress. It stores the content for pages. It stores the user information, users' passwords. It stores the individual cover data. So the database server is this one, SQL15854. VPS 52903 is the computing server, and that is where the web files live, basically. Right now we have it on the professional plan, and that gives you 4 gigs of RAM, 120 gigs of storage, and unlimited traffic. Okay, and so that is where uk.digitalrocketengines.com and media.digitalrocketengines.com live. It is also where these others will eventually live, but there's nothing. They were previously installed, and then I think we just ditched them because we weren't using them. But this is where they will go when they get going again, like German.digitalrocketengines.com, that kind of. So that's where they live. Those two sites, media.digitalrocketengines.com and UK, are not intended for other users or public visits. They are essentially administrative only. So they are intended to be used for the importing and the processing of the information. They are where Alan goes or any other future admins go in order to update the data on covers. They are where Alan or any other admins would go to manually import covers, and they contain all of the covers with various admin dashboard layouts for reviewing that data and updating it individually or in bulk. They are set up so that they have the Algolia search plugin configured, and whenever a cover is updated on one of these two sites, Media or UK, it syncs all of that cover's latest information over to Algolia. And we'll come back to Algolia. It keeps a record of the newsstand imports, when they ran and what happened when they ran, what was imported. It keeps a record of the market force imports, and the market force upload page is where an Excel file could be manually uploaded for those market force imports. And that's the same with the newsstand UK upload. There is also, these sites use advanced custom fields in order to configure, create the structure for all of the different fields that we have on those covers. And that includes things like the market force price, the cover price, the unique ID, the title, it includes things like the sales numbers. It includes things like the barcode 15, the barcode 13. These are all fields on the UK database. The media US database has different fields. Supply, efficiency numbers. Some of these things are calculated when the cover is saved or updated. So that takes us over to, we can talk about some of the automated features of these sites.
Are we still talking about DreamHost?
Yes, all of this is still on DreamHost. Yep.
Got it.
Yep. All right, so the media and the UK sites have, I don't think I'm sharing this screen, but essentially what happens is we have an AWS bucket that holds the daily import files. And on a daily basis, there's a cron job that runs, and it goes to that bucket that is set up for the site, whether it's UK or US, and using the Amazon AWS API, we go ahead and get that S3 bucket. We look for a file that has the same name as the current day's date. And if it finds that, it will then go and import that file, and it will pull it in. It will, let's see, import workings. It's going to go through and import each row and each column, and it's set up so that the columns match to the specific fields that we have set up in WordPress for an individual. And then it sends an email when that's complete. It also, when a cover is saved or updated, does a couple of other things. It's got a set of functions for the cover that define what gets synced over to Algolia and how it's formatted when it goes over there. whether it's giving Algolia the field as a number or a string. It is also using that AWS recognition API again to take the URL, for instance, of the image, the cover's image, which is provided in that spreadsheet and imported and stored in WordPress. It passes that URL to recognition. Recognition uses that URL to view the image, and then the recognition API returns us a bunch of data on that cover, including all of the words that are said on the cover, any celebrities that it recognizes on the cover, colors that it picks up on the cover, things like that.
And scenes.
What's that?
And
themes,
scenes, yeah. Right? You know, if it's flyer, if it's an airplane.
Right. So all of that is happening in those two WordPress sites that are on DreamHost. One reason we use DreamHost for this is because it gives us some flexibility in setting up those cron jobs. It also allows us to run some scripts from within our code base that run using the WordPress command line. And that allows scripts to run for a long time. Whereas if they ran as the web service, they ran under the website itself, would get cut off after a certain amount of time. So that's what we use DreamHost for. We also have those sites under Git version control, and there is a repository configured that's stored on the DreamHost server itself. And when pushing to that Git repository for the site, it automatically deploys the updated code to the site. So that takes us through DreamHost.
Well, let's go back to DreamHost for a second to just look at some of the screens.
Okay.
You know, just for the fun of it, because we're at WordPress right now.
Right.
Okay.
Let's. Would you like to see?
Well, okay. Let's just go down. Click everything on the left side. Let's go down if there's anything in there that's worthy of a screenshot for ChatGPT.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I don't even know if we're using any of that. Well, what do we have here?
I wouldn't screenshot any of this, but this is in DreamHost where you get to see the users that run the different sites. Each site runs under a different user.
And you wouldn't put this in the SOAR document because?
I just wouldn't put the usernames out there.
Oh, anyway. I see. Okay. Got it.
For the document, all you need to know is that we have separate users for each site. This
for
one
each
runs
site,
the media.
And that's our SFTP users. We have separate users for each site. Okay, that's fair enough.
Yes. These users are SFTP, and they also have SSH access, which is secure shell access, which means that I can log into the server directly from a command line and run some commands if necessary, including WordPress CLI commands.
You know, you're not an editor anymore. You know this stuff. I mean, this is pretty impressive, by the way. When you're yeah, this is amazing. Anything else here before we go on to the next one?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's look at the MySQL. You know, I'm just imagining that we're showing somebody at a company how to do all this. I mean, at Minecraft or something. Anything here I should or should not screenshot?
I wouldn't screenshot this. This is a list of your databases that are on there. So Media Digital Rocket is your US database. Right now it is just under 2 gigs. The UK Rocket database is here. That's just a little over 2 gigs.
And the 2 gigs, does that include the cover images themselves, or that's actually living in AWS?
Those live in AWS. We'll get back to those.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
I don't know if secure certificates is anything for us to look at, but
well, it's not really essential. DreamHost has these set up using Let's Encrypt, which provides free SSL certificates, and they should automatically renew. They have settings in here, so we can look at this, and it will automatically renew 30 days before its expiration. And I think that they generally set them up for like 90 days or something like that. But suffice it to say that those are SSL certificates are automatic here in DreamHost, and they're continually renewed. So there's nothing that needs to be done there.
fantastic. Hey, by the way, don't get hit by a bus.
Yeah. I
Uh,
don't. Yeah, there are no domains registered here in DreamHost in your account.
okay.
I think all the domains are in your GoDaddy account. The only one that might be elsewhere that we could transfer to you would be Digital Rocket Engines might be in my DreamHost account,
Got
but
it.
I'll have to check that.
Got it.
The WordPress section here in DreamHost is going to be, WordPress allows you to do like a sort of code-free WordPress installation right here from the dashboard, and you don't have to like upload any files yourself. So we can ignore that. We can ignore mail because we're not doing any of that through here. We already looked at the servers. We're not using any cloud services. That's going to be things like storage buckets and stuff like that, which we're not using. Billing an account is self-explanatory, and support, I think, is self-explanatory.
I think we covered it thoroughly. Is there anything else we need are missing?
I don't think so. I don't think right now.
Mm.
I think that the whole process might be, a matter of touching on everything, you kind of working with ChatGPT to put the document together, identifying any areas where we might want more detail, and then coming back and doing another one of these and looking through anything we
Absolutely.
missed.
In
So,
fact,
but
what I'm going to ask it is like, what questions do you have? And we'll just do another video
yep,
instead of having you
yep,
manually type. I think it's
yep.
faster for one thing. And then you'll
Yeah,
tell me if this document's any good or not.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
we'll see how it goes. I mean, other than really showing Chat GPT our background, I'm not anticipating get hit by a bus. So, but it's good.
I'm not planning on it.
No,
So,
no, no. But England scares me. You have to look left, not right. That type of thing.
yeah,
Is it right, not left? I can't remember.
yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, let's go on to the next one. Where do you want to go now?
All right. Let me get us into AWS. Give me 1 second and we can look at that. Just that. All right. Let's see. Try again. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move this over to our sharing window. All right. So in AWS, there's really one service that we use most of all, and that is S3. S3 is where we store a lot of files, okay? And that is a handful of stuff. So what we have in S3 buckets consist of, let's look at the UK, for example. We have UK Digital Rocket Engines backups, and that is on DreamHost again every day. We run a backup of the database and the files. the backup of the database and the files, and these get stored here in this bucket. So on each day, there is a file with the timestamp of that day, -db.sql.gz, and that is a database, a compressed database file. And then there's a separate one with the same timestamp, -files.zip, and that's a compressed file with all of the sites coded. So we have a snapshot of the database and the site's code stored in these buckets every day.
Wow. That's a lot of data.
It is a lot of data. If we at some point want to update this so that we clear out anything, we keep one per week from anything older than 3 months, do something like that, we definitely can, so that we can
Yeah, no, it's
reduce
just,
the amount stored in there.
we'll see if it, cost wise, if it's much of a cost anyway. So
yeah, Amazon has products like, I think it's called like Glacier or something, that is for long-term storage that's cheaper than this. Your files are not immediately accessible. You have to say, hey, this is in there, I want to grab this, and it might take them a couple of hours to send you a link to actually access your file. But it's cheaper to store it there that way.
I guess that's actually a good question, is what is the total storage we're using and what does that cost? I mean, if it's $10
Right.
a month, who cares?
Right.
I don't know what most of our AWS cost, if it's the S3 buckets or is it Amazon recognition work?
Right.
We can analyze that.
Yeah. So that's our backups bucket. Okay, and then we also have where are we looking here? The Media Rocket HTML files. Which one is it? It's BN Barnes and Noble Data Services. Let's look at that one. All right, this is where those upload files go, and those are those daily imports. So sales cover rocket, it's sales underscore cover underscore rocket, and the timestamp for that date, and it's a text file. And then it should move things over here into one of these completed folders after it's been imported. Yeah, here we go. We've got a ton of these in here. Sort by last modified if we can. Maybe we're not using this directory. Let me see. Yeah, those are all old ones. Those would be, that was where Barnes and Noble was uploading things. All right, let's see here. What other buckets do we have? Let's go back here. We can see which buckets are in use in the back end of the database itself. So let's go here to options in the UK database. All right, AWS. How many of those configured for the buckets? Oh, here we go. Here's the file bucket name. So Centafonte UK Cover Rocket Cover Files is where our files get. So Centafonte UK Cover Rocket Cover Files. All right. This is where all of the images live. So we're grabbing them from the URL when we do that import. And we are also using a WordPress feature on the server to make copies of that file that are different sizes. So we have a smaller thumbnail version, we have a medium-sized version, we have the original version. And that is so that we can use those in the front-end rocket that people use without actually, when they're just small thumbnails on the screen, it's faster to deliver them to the user's browser because they're a smaller file. And then they can still see, if they click on the cover, the larger version of the image. So all of those are getting stored in here. And we have obviously a ton of them. Let's see. They all have just sort of a whatever the title is that comes straight from the spreadsheet when it gets imported. That's the name of the file, and we just append MD or SM to the file.
Got it.
Okay, so those get stored in here, and this is also where they get served up from. So when you're looking at covers on discoverrockets.com, the image is coming from this bucket.
Okay, so in the UK case, we're uploading the newsstand UK's spreadsheet that has links to those covers. We import those covers from newsstand, and it lives here now.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And we do a similar thing in the US where we get a spreadsheet from our friends over at now they're called McClatchy Media Network. But I guess what's different there is we actually do a transmit to get their covers. Right? We get an API that sends over their covers on a Saturday to us. But we can go into more.
The weekly imports.
Yeah, as opposed to going to their website directly and pulling it up. Actually, the newsstand one's working very nicely. Cool.
All right, where's our here? Media. Bucket listed here. I think it's probably just in set in the code. All right, we Fonte, National Cover Rocket cover files. And these are going to be all of our images for the US rocket.
Excellent.
Okay. Let's see. There was another one here that I was just going to take note of. Maybe. Oh, this is what I was going to note. The U.S. stuff is all stored in the U.S. West region for AWS.
Okay.
The UK stuff is stored in their Europe London server region. Now everything gets replicated on AWS. You know, all of your data lives in every one of their data centers, but its home is one of these, and so you want the home location for it to be geographically closer to your target audience. The amount of time that it's going to take it to get from their London server to your UK users that are in the UK is going to be minuscule compared to if they had to get it from the US server.
Yeah, I like that.
It still makes a difference. So that's one thing that's set on those. We originally, when we were setting up the bucket for the German cover rocket, it is set up in their Frankfurt server farm.
Oh, very cool.
So we've got that. All right, so that's S3, and the other service that we use here on AWS that we mentioned before is recognition. And there's not much to see here through the AWS dashboard, but recognition is what we use for celebrity recognition, text in the image, image properties, label detection, things like that. We use those various services as part of recognition. There's nothing is stored here in recognition. There's nothing much to see here in the dashboard, but this is the other AWS service that we take advantage of and that you get billed for based on the usage.
Perfect.
This is what could potentially be replaced by an AI service. Recognition is sort of a structured way for us to contact their API and say, look at this image and give us a list of all the words in the image or a list of all the celebrities. We could probably do the same thing if we want to consolidate by using like the ChatGPT API and say, review this image and give me a formatted list of all of the celebrities in this image and a formatted list of all of and you could say, order them by their prominence on the cover, something like that.
You know what? And chat can remind me that is actually a discussion you and I should go through, because I've been playing with chat on that, and it's delivering a lot, right? And now you're right, because I mean the color can do it better on chat, because it could say what's the primary color. It could tell us who the personality. You're probably right about consolidating it. We just need to figure out how to make it work. And that's where I kind of ran into some problems, and we can talk about that later. But
there was an example of one that I found at one point that I was looking through where I pulled up Betty White, and in the rocket there are 31 tagged with Betty White on the cover, according to Recognition. So Recognition looked at this and said, Betty White is in each of these covers. And I remember looking through here and saying, well, let's see if we can find it.
I'm not sure if that's Recognition or that's me for the US rocket. I manually go through those covers and say who's a prominent person on the cover.
Okay. Interesting.
But we have elsewhere all the Recognition covers, if that makes sense. So the cover personalities, technically probably my manual do it while we have another column for Recognition. And we probably, go ahead and go click on somebody who's famous. Is that John Wayne on the National Enquirer?
Yeah. So the example I was going to use with Betty White is I remember a time that I was looking through these and I saw a cover, and it's not here now, so you may have edited it and removed it. There was a cover that did not immediately seem to have Betty White on it. And I remember looking at it and going, oh, Recognition messed up because Betty White is not on this cover. And then I looked very closely and there was like an image of like fake money that was very small.
Oh yeah.
And it had, instead of like George Washington, it had Betty White in there. But I had to like look up close and found it in there. And it turned out the Recognition was actually correct. Betty White was on the cover and it picked her out in that tiny little image. But that would be an advantage of listing the prominence of the personalities on the cover.
Yeah, in fact, I am looking. Well, I don't know where Betty White is on this one. Recognition might have got it wrong, but I am looking at let me just take a quick look. Like if I type in Betty White, it actually gives me 73 covers, and then you narrow it down to the 31 that is more focused on. I did the wrong person. More focused on her. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's almost like too broad, with Recognition, and this has been this manual load. So to go back to the UK rocket, it would be a beast to say, all right, now you got to go through. I mean, because we did this over years now, right?
Yeah.
So what I was going to do is test, and we'll get back to our thing here in a second. test like, well, can I how test on the U.S. rocket saying, okay, let me have 100 covers, and you tell me who's prominent, but I won't give ChatGPT who we determine who's prominent, and compare the list and to see, okay, is it 97% accurate or not?
Right. Okay.
So that's
Interesting.
actually a big assignment we have to do for the UK because it's not working right now. So I think you and I should have another discussion on how do we figure out how to get ChatGPT. It's actually OpenAI's back end, right? I can figure out how to do
Right.
it in ChatGPT, but OpenAI, we have to be able to give it the instructions to say, do these following tasks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, we should talk about that. Or should we talk about trying to get a consultant to help us? Oh, here's one more thing about that, not to talk about it too much, but there's all sorts of things you could do at the same time, but do you overwhelm ChatGPT by having too many things done at the same time? I don't know. I mean, testing will tell you.
Yeah, we would test that out, I would think. And ultimately, I think it would probably just come down to what we would want to see through testing, like what the costs end up being.
Yeah.
Because, they base it on like those word stems essentially. And it would be interesting to actually run some real data through there to find out exactly what your average costs might look like.
Yeah, I've played with I mean, this is me not knowing anything. Like, well, how much would this cost? And like, oh, that could be a few $1,000s. Still cheaper than doing it ourselves. But then we have to figure out how to automate it, like we've done with recognition.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that I'm putting down here, Al, you and I should dive in deeper with that.
Yeah.
Before I go talk to anybody else, you don't want to hire somebody until we start going, well, what do we want them to do?
Yeah.
Or is this something we can figure out how to do because you've done it before? Alex. Okay, I'll set up another time with you on that. Keep on going, my friend.
Okay. So I think we're good on AWS for a bit. I'm gonna make notes here. All right, so we've gone through that. Let's talk about Algolia next. Okay, so we've talked about the main backend stuff. We talked about the two backend WordPress sites, and now we've talked about AWS, which interacts with those two sites to store image files, store backups, and also process those images and return data to WordPress about the contents of those images. So the next thing that happens from those backends is they send out to Algolia. And Algolia is our sort of external search and it's our like an external data storage and search configuration application or service. So Algolia has a bunch of different indexes in here that, let's see, all of them. We have our, let's go to the UK. Okay. So we have our UK underscore posts underscore cover index in Algolia. And that is where all the information goes from the UK WordPress site in order to be stored in here. And you can look up an individual cover and all of the data that Algolia has on it in here in the Algolia dashboard. You can edit this data here in Algolia if necessary. Algolia allows you to bulk upload things directly. We do not do that. I don't think we need to do that, but it can be done. And then Algolia will let you kind of search for things and see what search results are. It'll let you kind of preview what your different facets and searches look like here in the back end. But Algolia is where all of this stuff lives. And then you see that this index, this UK post cover index, is the primary of 3 replicas. And what that means is that the UK post cover index is sort of the original version of all the data. And these replicas are separate indexes here in Algolia that stay up to date with all of the data that's in that primary index, but these replicas have a different configuration. So what that means is you could configure them totally differently if you want, with different searchable attributes and different facets for searching and different things like that. What we use them for is the sorting. So on the front end, when you say I want to sort this by most sales or most recent, we're actually switching the index that it's searching. And on the index, this is our oldest UK posts cover. We are sorting by the issue date ascending. That's the only difference between this index and the UK posts cover index. And again, you do not have to manage the data in this one directly. You can't even add records here directly to it because all of the actual data is in that UK posts cover index. We are just changing the way they're sorted for that one. And you can see if we go back to that, the UK posts cover, this is the primary. We have oldest UK posts cover, sales UK posts cover, and highest UK posts cover. And each one of those is sorting in a different way. And that's what differentiates it from that original primary index. That is essentially it for Algolia. There's really nothing that we're doing in here manually aside from if we need to go in here and update that sorting or configuration for an index. Everything else is automated. Things get sent over from WordPress and updated from WordPress and stored here in Algolia. And so it comes into Algolia from one side from our WordPress backends, lives in Algolia, and then goes from Algolia to discoverrockets.com. And so when we are looking here at discoverrockets.com, Algolia provides the overall search feature. So it provides us all these different facets that we've got, all of these filters, and then the actual data that we see on the screen. All of this is coming directly from Algolia. It's not coming from WordPress.
Fantastic. And now I think about it, why don't we walk for Chat GPT through the actual website, right? Because we're
Right.
showing you the back end, but do you mind kind of like giving your detailed overview on this?
Right. So this is
okay, go ahead.
DiscoverRockets.com is also a WordPress website. But the only things that are really stored in this WordPress website are the couple pages that we have. So there's a home page on the site. And there is then there are the actual rockets, the USA rocket, there's the UK rocket, any other test rockets that are private for us for now. And then the other main thing that WordPress is doing here is it is storing all of our users and their accounts and their roles. So what we've got in here are, we've got 546 users. Those users have some information associated with them. So they've got their email address and then their magazine and their position at that magazine. And then they've got a role. And that role determines which of those pages essentially they get to view on the site. So if we want to view just our administrators, we can filter by that and see who we've got in here. If we want to view one of those other roles, UK subscriber, maybe we can filter by that. Right now, we've just got Adrian in there. He's got multiple roles: everything subscriber, subscriber, UK subscriber, USA subscriber. The idea behind this is that those would become more useful as the rockets grow. And in order to grant a user access to one of the rockets, you would give them an appropriate role. So right now, a user that is only marked as a USA subscriber would not be able to view the UK rocket, and vice versa. A UK subscriber would not be able to view the USA rocket. And everything subscriber allows them to see any of the rockets that. So that is the primary function of discoverrockets.com. It is storing and managing our users and their access and displaying those rocket results.
And while we're here, user activity tracking, what are we using for that?
That is a very good question. We have that set up to track what the users are doing with these various pages. So we can say, we can see that today there's been some activity. Emma Carey at Market Force was looking at the UK rocket. Steve Brown and Paul Marr and this other person, they were all looking at the USA rocket. Steve Brown is in Bedford. Paul Marr is in Westminster.
Yeah, isn't that
And then we have some other tracking that lets us view event tracking here. And this is going to be things like some of the different triggers that we have set up. So this will track things like logins, but it's also tracking some of these activities. Okay, so Alan, our administrator, is in Portland, and he was on the testing the export cover rocket page. And he was using the filters, and it looks like he also clicked on a cover to open it. The MindGrub was in there and was clicking on a filter. And we should be able to see what was being filtered.
what's the plugin you're using here?
User activity tracking and log.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
There's probably a ton of information in here. Okay, so what do we have here? Here we go. Yeah, so Alan Centofonte was on the export cover rocket and was searching by Betty White personality,
Oh,
B.
geez.
Arthur personality, Betty White personality. Tracy Eng was searching by -- Meredith publisher, crafts and hobbies category, -- Meredith.
You know what?
David,
I hate to admit it. I don't dive in deeper here. Okay.
Alan Centofonte. Yeah, this is telling you what they were looking for.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's dissertation. The publisher, Meredith.
David Good was looking for type
Ooh,
book being region domestic.
okay.
Publisher, Future Publishing Limited, subcategory, football pro, publisher, Athlon Sports. Right, that was
Oh, that's really interesting.
this person at A360.
Do
So
they?
you've got all that in there. There are almost 7,200 entries in there.
Oh,
What's
and I
being
can do a
used.
sortate and export that, can't I?
You should be able to export this as a
Is that
CSV.
under event tracking, did you say?
Yeah, this is here in user activity tracking, event tracking.
You know, it's like I've been using one page that will solve some mysteries. And that's triggers log or user. Oh, hang on, there you go.
This is going to be triggers log. We have so we have these triggers set up here in the back end, right? So filter by, there's a trigger for when they click load more. There's a trigger for when they sort by. There's a trigger for when they click the cover to open it and view more. There's a trigger when they download the cover. So each of those sort of interactions is a trigger that we are tracking.
And what's the difference between that? I'm looking when I click on triggers log. Triggers log. Okay,
So
takes.
these are our different triggers. So we can see, let's look at download cover. Nobody is clicking the download covers button.
Oh, okay.
Load more is going to tell us whoever has clicked the load more to load more results. You know, it loads like 60 at a time or something, right? So Megan Perlman, that was today. All right, National Cover Rocket, National Post Cover Query D-Day, and she clicked load more. Okay.
Oh man, I need to spend more time on this. Okay.
David Good, Dan Kelleher. So you can see when people are clicking load more. This person's doing it a bunch here. Dan Kelleher was on the National Cover Rocket, and on page 3 he clicked load more, and on page 4 he clicked load more. Page 5 he clicked load more. Page 6 he kept going. He stopped at when he got to page 8. It's like,
Yeah, you know, I was going to ask you about that. We're showing 60 covers. I wonder if we should be showing more. I mean, it's so
well,
damn.
you should look at this and kind of analyze it and see. There's 3,233 entries of someone clicking load more. So does that mean that
I see what you're saying.
you want to return more covers? If you felt like people were not clicking it that often, you would know that your number of
Yeah.
results
Well,
is fine.
with your export, which is so blazingly fast, exporting into a spreadsheet, there would be an advantage to have more, right? So you don't have to click it so many times. But you're right. I got to go play. It's
Yeah.
interesting. No, okay. So download loads more. Let me just see if it's okay. It's coming to me. Okay, got it.
Cover open will tell us when they clicked on a cover to view more details about it.
Loading more. Okay, I need to study this stuff, and I can export all that out. Okay. All right.
So
That
5,885 entries of someone clicking on a cover to view the details for it. Right. So again, Paul Marr in Westminster clicked on. We have the cover ID here. If we needed to see what cover it was, we could go back to Algolia. But so he was in the U.S. rocket, and he clicked on 2 covers. So let's go back to Algolia and go to our National Post cover, and let's find that record to see what he was clicking on. Haunted, where is it? September 16th, 2023 edition of Haunted Magazine. Travel, Amber Books Limited, Scary, Haunted Ghosts, Supernatural. Right, so he clicked on that one, and his query was taxonomies, magazine haunted, and he had a search query of haunted.
wow.
And so we
Okay.
could see that that's what he was searching for, and then he clicked on the cover to view more details.
Yeah.
From the rocket with no refinements, he clicked on cover, clicked on D magazine from January 25th.
Huh. I didn't think about that. You know, there's probably a lot more we should be doing with that, right? In the end.
And let me explain, let me explain what that ID is with our last couple minutes here. This ID that it's returning, this is going to be used in a couple places. So this is the ID of that cover in WordPress. So if you wanted to look at it directly in WordPress, we would copy that 196127 and maybe go back to, let's say, our national rocket. We could go to covers and we could go directly to let's go to edit cover. You'll see when you go to edit a cover, it's got that post ID right in there. If we replace that with the one that he's looking at, we can go to that cover and see what he's got. This should be D magazine from January 25th. Right. It's D magazine, fashion, and then magazine. And then the other place it's used that you saw me using it was if you are looking at your index here in Algolia and you go here and set this to object ID up top, you're just going to put that same WordPress ID in here followed by a -0. And that'll give you that cover right here.
Oh, got it. Excellent. Well, I guess we're coming down to the end.
Yeah, I think this was a good first step. I think you should work with ChatGPT to sort of work through the notes and refine it, and then we can do another one.
Yeah, and maybe what we do is when we do another one, and let's schedule it again as soon as you've got time. How does that work anyway with these guys? Do I need to go back to Chris to ask for more time, or is that?
Yeah, just say in the ticket, can you give me another, hour with Alex next week, the week of whatever it is.
Yeah. Is your week pretty full with those guys this week?
It
I mean, they
is.
fill
Yeah.
you up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'll reach out to him and say another hour. I still need to be loading stuff in MindGrub and otherwise for the to-do list, going off of Asana and stuff, and it's amazing how the week is going by. So, but this is fantastic, and I'll send over to you, and so you can review it. Be interesting to see what it comes back at, and
Yeah.
we might have to refine that together, and that might be just you and I doing another one of these and going, okay, chat, blah blah blah, because you're going to know what. I mean, what would you want to? You would know what technical people like you would want to see in something like this, right? So we'll see how
Yes. Yeah.
it delivers,
Exactly.
and you probably can ask better refining questions than I can. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe even another time we can find once that's set up and have you look at it.
Yeah.
I'll text you later.
Okay.
All right, amigo. Hey, thanks for your hour.
All right. Yeah.
It's
Thanks,
exhausting
Alan. This
too,
was good.
isn't it? I mean, you went through a lot. So
I know. I need a drink of water.
yeah, and it's something else. Hey, that was excellent. Thanks for your time.
All right. See you, Alan.
Bye bye.